Hello everyone. Phantom here. And welcome to an interesting stream. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the new Steam stuff. I wanted to wait a week. I was supposed to do streaming earlier, like way earlier, but things kind of happened. But yeah, I wanted to just sort of discuss all the new Steam hardware. There we go. Just turn that off for now. But yeah, so I wanted to go over just a lot of things. Just because I wanted to, just figure things out, really. There we go, just have all that off for now. But yeah, so I really wanted to talk about the new Steam hardware, but I wanted to wait a week just in case, one, any other information got out, but also if the pricing came out or anything like that, or if Valve had any other announcements. But the other thing was I wanted to wait till I had plenty of good information on the Steam hardware, because a lot of people immediately watched the video, press record, and talked their ass off about the stuff, and they weren't necessarily saying the right things. Like, they were misreading the facts. They weren't doing it on purpose, but it just kind of irked me the wrong way. And so I wanted to wait a while before putting my hat into the ring, really. Let me go close my door real quick. So, yeah. I think first off, we should talk about the Steam controller, because that is something really interesting. The original Steam controller from 2015 had the 4 face buttons where the thumbstick usually is on the right side of the controller, and then it had a thumbstick also. So it was like the top part of an Xbox controller, but on the bottom, and then on the top, on the top of the controller, I'm trying to speak too fast again, were these 2 track pads. I think the right one was super smooth, and then the left one had these arrows on it, that meant for it to be a D-pad, and the right one was meant to be a joystick. So it was the weird inverse asymmetrical layout. So imagine an Xbox controller, but the thumbstick is on the right, or the right thumbstick's on the top and the face buttons are on the bottom, and the left thumbstick's on the top and the D-pad's on the bottom, or the left thumbstick's on the bottom and the D-pad's on the top, or whatever. It's a weird reversed Xbox controller, and a lot of people liked it, but a ton of people didn't like it. I mean, it was not a very good controller at all. And it, the touchpads, obviously, the touchpad, the PS4 had its own little touchpad thing, the DualShock 4. But it just didn't really work well in that sort of format. And you know, Valve definitely learned from their mistakes, and they liked the dual touchpad concept of the Steam controller. And so when it came time years down the line to do the Steam Deck, they kept the dual trackpads. That's what they are, trackpads, not touchpads. But they moved them to below where the face buttons, D-pad, and thumbsticks were. So on the Steam Deck, hold on, I could pull up an image. Let me pull up an image. Yeah, so there we go. Do I have? Yeah, I do have it. Okay, cool. But you can see the Steam Deck right here, how it has the 4 face buttons and the thumbstick right here, as well as the menu button. And then on the left side, it's mirrored, so it's a PlayStation layout. So you have the left thumbstick, the D-pad, and then you have the view button, I think is what it's called for Steam. And then you have the Steam button on the bottom left below the trash bag, the track pad, and then on the right you have the quick access button. And then I don't have an image of the back of the Steam controller or the Steam Deck, but there's 4 buttons, Xbox Elite controller style, where there's like 4 buttons on the back, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and they're labeled R4 and R5, R4, R5, L4, and L5. Because the bumpers are L1, R1, the triggers are L2, R2, and then the thumbsticks are L3 and R3, which doesn't make much sense, but I understand why. But yeah, really interesting, like, design-wise for the Steam Deck. Oh, I can see my mouse good. But yeah, these 2 trackpads, they kept the dual trackpads, and they put them sort of below the thumbsticks instead of like replacing a thumbstick and a D-pad, which is pretty cool. But then, hold on, there we go. Now we got to the Steam controller and the new Steam controller, and this kept the design from the Steam Deck. So you have the Steam button, which is now a circle, and then you have the quick access button, which is a little thinner, I believe. But then they sort of slanted the layout a bit to make it more comfortable for, you know, handheld use and not, you know, giant tablet thing. So the ABX wire here, the thumbsticks are here, the D-pad's here, the menu and view buttons, the 2 trackpads, and then there's still the same, hold on. It is this. So the back of the Steam controller, you have the same R4, R5, L4, and L5 right here. Which is pretty cool. And then obviously you have the bumpers and triggers. The thumbsticks are made with a much newer design for thumbsticks. I mean, you might be like, oh, they look the same, but these are TMR thumbsticks, which, if I remember right, stands for tunnel magneto resistor, I think. basically, um, you know all the hype around Hall Effect thumbsticks? This is Hall Effect, but better. And I believe this is to Hall Effect, like TMR is to Hall Effect, how Hall Effect is to regular potentiometer thumbsticks. So these are like really good thumbsticks, and they should be way better for precision as well as longevity as well. So these things won't drift nearly as soon as others. I mean, my Xbox controller is starting to drift upward and downwards on the left thumbstick now. So yeah, but also, just like the Steam Deck, the thumbsticks have touch sensors on them. So, and the same thing for the like back grips of the controller. So like on the back of the controller, I don't know if it's these 4 buttons or if it's just the controller itself, but there are some other interesting things as well. But yeah, the thumbsticks have the same like sensors on them. The same like touch sensors that the deck has, and so you'll be able to control gyro controls. And the cool thing is, this controller has an internal battery, so no AA's. And its battery lasts 35 hours, they say, or upwards of 35 hours. I believe that's at like standard use, so that's with the HD rumble on, or HD haptics, so the trackpad's doing their thing as well as the triggers doing their thing. And then I like the idea of haptics in the triggers as well as haptics in the trackpads. That sounds really cool. Doesn't seem like there's like regular vibration motors in the wings of the controller, but we'll have to see about that when the inevitable teardown comes from somebody. I don't think Gamers Nexus will do a teardown of the Steam controller. I think they're more interested in the base Steam machine. Obviously, Linus will probably tear down the Steam frame, and then, well, as well as the Steam machine, and then hopefully somebody takes apart the controller, because I want to see the internals of this thing, but I don't want to do it myself. But the cool thing is how it connects to your controller. So Valve is going for ease of use for wireless controllers. So kind of like how my headset operates, where I have a discrete dongle for the headset itself, which uses a 2.4 gigahertz connection. This has a puck, and the puck serves 2 functions. So the first is it'll have wireless charging, so you can snap it to the puck and it'll charge via whatever connection you have. So it'll be good to plug it into a USB 3 port. So I've got a USB 3, or I got multiple USB 3 ports free on the back of my computer, so I'll just plop that on and good to go. So that sounds pretty cool. But then, because it's a wireless dongle, it also gives a 2.4 gigahertz connection, or you can snap it on and charge it magnetically like the wireless charger for the Elite controller, but instead of being this giant block that you plug a USB-C cable into, it's this tiny little dongle. And I think the dongle is meant to go on the end of a wire. So for my desk, I have like a space that's like in the top portion of my monitor, kind of like between the two legs of my monitor. I can see myself putting the Steam controller on that to charge it, which is pretty cool. But we'll have to see how it handles with other 2.4 gigahertz connections, because it might fight with my headset, because that also uses a 2.4 gigahertz connection, but I think they're using a specific like thing, so we'll see. But yeah, a lot of people are not liking the look of the controller. I think because like the way that the trackpads are, a lot of people think it's ugly. I actually think it looks pretty cool. I could see myself like holding the controller and using it. And this is definitely going to be the thing I get day one, when it inevitably comes out. If it's at least around the $80 price range, I'm expecting it to be $80. If it's like $100, I could see why. This thing is really densely compact, especially with the TMR thumbsticks and the internal battery and the freaking haptics. I mean, it's like a PS5 controller, but actually freaking good. But yeah, and it's about the same size. Whenever one of the people who managed to be at the Valve headquarters last week was having a hands-on with the Steam controller, they put it next to like a Xbox controller, like one of the Series S and X controllers. I think it was a Series S controller because it was white. So literally the controller I have, and it looked to be relatively the same shape for the outer shell. Well, not really the same shape, but like the same sort of like dimensions overall. So that's going to be pretty cool. I think it might be slightly wider on the top, but like on the bottom portion it'll be the same. So we'll have to see. But yeah. I'm looking forward to this. If this thing is like $60, I mean, that's a complete steal for all the features inside of this controller. $60 is insane. I really don't see this thing being $60 though. Personally, I would say this could easily be sold for $80. Because the PlayStation 5 controller, the DualSense controller, is sold, I believe, at $70 currently. And that has regular potentiometer thumbsticks. It only has one trackpad, and the battery life on that thing is complete shit. This has a dedicated dongle for connection, and it features magnetic charging with its dongle. It has a much bigger battery. It has two smaller trackpads. It has better thumbsticks. It also has haptic triggers, which is pretty cool. It has no internal microphone or speaker, which, why do those exist in the DualSense controller in the first place? I don't know. But, yeah. Capacitive, that's the word I was looking for the thumbsticks. So the thumbsticks and the back buttons are all capacitive. So all you have to do is lay your finger on it, and it'll register. And that will most likely be used for gyro, for like flat screen games. But yeah, but I believe for this, it's just the trackpads, obviously, the thumbsticks, and then these guys, the 4 back buttons, the 4s and 5s. Just like the Steam controller, how its back buttons were capacitive, as well as the thumbsticks and touchpads, obviously. Do I have a image of the frame? Or do I have an image of the box? I don't have an image of the box. I can get an image of the box real quick. Let me open up Discord. All right, thank you, Discord. All right, let me. All right, so here's the GameCube. So here's the next thing I'm talking about. So the GameCube, or the new Steam machine. Let me get some water real quick. My throat is getting really dry. Oh, I need a drink. All right, no text messages yet. But yeah, this thing is a 6-inch cube. Like, this thing is literally GameCube sized. I mean, just think, that on the front is a USB-A port. We have 2 USB-A ports. These are, I believe, USB 3. And then you obviously have this, which is a micro SD card slot. You have an indicator light, and then you have the power button, and then this LED strip, and then you have this like front plate, which can come off and be swapped with a different one, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this thing, it's literally an Xbox Series X, but smushed into a cube form. And instead of shooting air out the top of it, it intakes air from the bottom. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap between the table and the bottom of the machine. So it intakes air from below, and then it shoots it out the back through a Xbox style massive frick off fan. And this thing is literally like 50% heat sink, which is just insane. But they want this thing to be quiet, and they know that this thing's going to be put in unreasonable places for high-tech items, but people won't listen to the instructions. And they're going to set this thing in wacky areas. But yeah, this thing is about as powerful as a base PlayStation 5. In some cases, it'll be less powerful. In other cases, it'll be more powerful. It's got a better CPU, but the GPU is slightly worse in some aspects. But this thing has a 6-core AMD processor, which is like, I believe, Zen 3 based, and then it has a 28 CU Zen, no, where does it, RDNA 3 based discrete GPU. So unlike all the consoles, the CPU and GPU are discrete instead of together. The PS5 has a RDNA 2 based GPU, but I believe it has more compute units. So the GPU has more cylinders on the PlayStation 5, but on the Steam machine, each cylinder has more, it's like a slightly bigger cylinder. So we'll see how PS5 games compare to Steam machine games. But this thing has FSR 3 support. I believe the PS5 only has FSR 2. Although I could be wrong on that. But this thing is built to do 4K at 60 FPS with FSR. Translation 1080p 60 for most AAA games. Some of them you could do 1440p 60, but you're gonna have to be like compromising settings right here. So I can see this thing being a really good 1440p box or a really good 1080p high frame rate box. But this thing is not meant to be a high-end PC. This thing is meant to be a kind of a lower-end, modern-ish computer. This thing runs SteamOS, and the desktop environment is the same as in the Steam Deck, which is KDE Plasma. I swear I heard something. But yeah, really interesting sort of thing. So it runs SteamOS, which is really cool. And it will have all the same features of SteamOS as the Steam Deck. So that's going to be cool. So yeah, this thing has 16 gigabytes of DDR5 memory. And I believe they use laptop memory modules just to keep this thing pretty small. And it also has 8 gigs of GDDR6 memory for the CPU. Or 8 gigs of, not for the CPU, for the GPU. So dedicated VRAM. So yeah, 16 gigs of DRAM and then 8 gigs of VRAM. And a lot of people are saying 8 gigs of VRAM in 2026. But in reality, with the type of resolutions and frame rates and super scaling they're wanting to do, yeah, 8 gigs is fine. And the thing is, like, people with high-end computers, I mean, I also have a high-end computer, but I understand kind of what the budget market looks like a lot better than what most high-end gamers are looking at. At least I hope. But, like, if you look at the Steam hardware and software survey, like, most people are running a 6-core CPU, a 3060 equivalent graphics card, and 8 gigs of VRAM and 16 gigs of RAM. and most people are playing at 1080p or 1920 by 1080. And so this thing is the same sort of power as 60% of or like 70%. This thing is more powerful than 70% of the Steam hardware survey. And if they price this thing fairly low, that'll be an easy upgrade for a lot of people. Because you get a much faster CPU, because it's a Zen 3 architecture CPU clocked at up to 4.8 gigahertz. And then you got a pretty good like 3060 equivalent graphics card, which is really cool. And then yeah, but this thing has better specs. It has better or equal specs to 70% of the Steam hardware survey. So this thing, if it releases, will be the new floor for game development, because this is just one singular unit. I mean, there's going to be 2 SKUs. The differences between them will be 512 gigs of SSD or M.2 SSD storage or 2 terabytes. But that's going to be the only difference. So no RAM, VRAM, CPU, or GPU differences. It'll just be storage. Which I think is going to be pretty cool, because the sort of system requirements for a lot of Steam games, I think this is going to be the new target for decent frame rates, because right now games are getting worse and worse about optimization. Because, oh look, the 5090 is here, and oh look, the 950 X3D CPU, and oh look, 64 gigs of memory and 24 gigs of VRAM, and super crazy SSDs. And so games are becoming horribly unoptimized. They run like crap, even on like high-end systems. But this thing isn't a high-end system, and if they did make this thing bigger and give it much better specs for what it was, it wouldn't sell at all, because it would be more expensive than building a discrete computer. This thing is going to be targeting the budget PC market. Now, how much that is going to vary a lot with the next few months, because right now prices for DRAM is twice as much what it should be at the moment, because AI data centers are being greedy as shit and they're taking all of the RAM. That's the abridged version of it, but basically the manufacturers of the RAM cannot make nearly as much regular, like, consumer grade RAM, because they're making a whole bunch of like server RAM for these AI data centers. And I believe there is like a pretty big difference, because the way that RAM is, it has like bigger modules for ECC and stuff. But with the way the market's going right now, RAM is really expensive, and Valve is probably still able to get RAM at decent prices, but we really have to see what the specs are, or what the not the spec, but what the price is for the Steam machine, and what specs you can get for other either small form factor budget builds or, build your own stuff that you can get for a similar price. But yeah, this thing, I mean, obviously I have a computer that's multiple times as powerful as this. It's got twice the RAM, twice the VRAM, a ton of storage. It has an 8-core Zen 4 CPU instead of a 6-core Zen 3. It's got a 4070 Ti Super instead of a 7600M. I think it's what it is. And so, like, I have an incredibly powerful computer versus what this thing can offer. And so this thing obviously isn't targeting me, but I still might get one if I manage to accrue the extra money for it. Simply for the fact that this could easily be a Minecraft server. Like, you can switch to desktop mode, download a Minecraft server client or something, maybe put mods on it or something, and then just stick this, because this uses 200 watts maximum. So you could literally just stick it somewhere and it will be a Minecraft server. Because this thing doesn't run Windows, it runs SteamOS, which is meant for gaming instead of Copilot or whatever the heck Microsoft is doing nowadays with 11, which I have to suffer with, as you can see. But yeah, and where I think this thing's gonna be priced, I'm gonna say $600 for the 512 gigabyte model, and $750 for the 2 terabyte model. That's sort of my guesstimate. Maybe, maybe it'll be cheaper. Maybe they can do 500 and 600, but I really don't see it being that cheap unless RAM prices manage to go down dramatically between now and, I guess, March of next year is when I think that they're going to announce the prices of these things. But, right now things are volatile, with AI data centers eating all the RAM, and apparently SSDs as well. And then you also have craziness, price hikes for just regular components in general. Manufacturing is kind of whack at the moment as well, and people are tariff crazy apparently. People are blaming the tariffs and everything. However, there's a lot of companies where absolutely no piece of their product is getting tariffed, but they're still raising the prices and claiming it on tariffs because, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that are being tariffed, and that is, not the best at the moment, especially for tech stuff, but there are some people taking advantage of that and raising their prices and claiming it is tariffs when in reality it most likely isn't. I'm not going to say that Valve is going to do this, but this will affect the price of the system, because it affects the price of materials to build the system as well as to ship the system, whether locally in the US or globally to the EU, Canada, Australia, Japan, various places where they ship the Steam Deck, because this thing, as well as the controller and the frame, are all being shipped to all the same locations that the Steam Deck is being shipped to. Currently. Now, but yeah, the most expensive I could see this thing being is like $700 and $900. But I think this thing's gonna be $600 and $750. If this thing can be sold for $500, that's a steal. Because you can't really build a computer with this kind of specs for this price easily, I should add. But yeah, but this thing could easily be a sale, and the people I see buying this are people that either have a really old computer and want to upgrade to a more modern computer, because you can put whatever operating system you want to on it. You can put Windows 11 on the darn thing. I don't recommend it, but yeah. Or console gamers that are looking to switch from Xbox or PlayStation, or heck, even Nintendo, instead of waiting for the new thing to come out in a couple years. But I could definitely see this thing going for $600, and it's selling like hotcakes at that $600 price range. But if I can get my hands on one, especially the 512, then that will be a Minecraft server. But yeah. Oh goodness. And lastly, but not least, is going to be the Steam frame. This is the first VR headset that looks really appetizing for me. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like, when it comes to VR, I am at a major disadvantage because of my lack of vision. Because, like, while normal people could see this, in reality, I'm like this. Because of how bad my vision is. I have to be much closer to things to see the same things that regular people see. And I'm liking all like the cool things on it. I'm just looking at all the cool stuff on here. Yeah, pretty interesting. But yeah, the Steam frame, it's got a weighted battery on the back instead of being on the front. This thing is about as powerful computationally wise as the Quest 3. But the controllers, though. The controllers, finally, all 4 face buttons on the right side and the D-pad on the left side. The only really evolution I could see of this type of controller is to split the D-pad into 4 buttons, like 4 separate buttons. That way you can keep the symmetry of VR controllers. But I understand why they went for the D-pad. But this thing, so the Quest 3 for instance, that is a standalone first headset. So it's built to be standalone VR. So it's built to do everything on its own. So computationally, spatial awarenessly, and so everything's done through the headset itself. It can stream PCVR, but it's not built for it as a primary function. This thing is built to be a PCVR headset, and because it's a standalone device, it does have standalone capabilities, but it's not necessarily built for that. It's built to be a streaming first headset. And this right here is what a lot of people aren't understanding about this headset in particular. They're not too happy about the LCD displays, because the LCD displays, it's 2160 by 2160 per eye LCD panels, and a lot of people are like, why not OLEDs? Why not much higher resolutions? And it's because, one, micro OLEDs are expensive as shit still, and two, right now, for pancake lenses, which is what this thing has and what the Quest 3 has, the micro OLED panels are not bright enough at the moment for what Valve was wanting for displays. So they had to go for LCDs for both price as well as function. And that is the exact same thing for cameras. Because the cameras are monochrome. They're not color pass-through, it's monochrome, so it's black and white. But one good thing about the monochrome cameras is that they offer better IR tracking for the controllers. And they can track in basically next to zero light conditions. So right now, if I were to have my computer off, all my screens off, the only thing that would be lighting my room is a bit of light coming in from the window outside, and the light coming from my router, because it has a clock on it that tells time. And the Quest 3, I don't have one, but it would have trouble in the dark. You need to have like some sort of light to help it, to get it bright enough for the color cameras to see. But because these are monochrome, they could see better in very little visible light conditions. So I could have an extremely dark room, not a completely dark room, but a very, very dimly lit room, and it will be able to tell where the controllers are for more precise accuracy, which is really good. But also the monochromes are cheaper than color pass-through cameras. So that's yet another thing that's both price and convenience about this headset. And that's why they went for I guess last year's mobile processor instead of this year's or even next year's. Because this thing has the same processor, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, that I have in my phone. So, yeah. So, which is about as powerful computationally than a Quest 3. But yeah. But this thing is built for PCVR, and I can see this thing going for $600 for the 256GB model, and $700 for the 1TB model. Which would be pretty cool. But yeah, and also, there's something really cool. The controller also has some IR emitters on it. And so if it's paired directly with a Steam frame, then it will use those IR emitters, which will decrease the battery life by a bit. But this thing is fully usable with the Steam frame. These controllers have one AA battery in them, each like the Oculus Touch controllers. And they have about 40 hours of battery life each. And what I would recommend is if you plan on getting into VR with the Steam frame, like say you have a PC and you want to do PC VR titles, or you want to stand alone but you don't want a Quest, what I would recommend is buy yourself a set of rechargeable batteries. I particularly have like this these Energizer batteries, which have a little bit of green on them, and those are rechargeable. And I also got a rechargeable battery like charger. I didn't know that also came with batteries, so I have 12 batteries. But yeah, you just have to get really used to not throwing them away. But yeah, they last about as long as regular AA's, and obviously they're rechargeable, so you can get more than one use out of them, which is pretty cool. But yeah. Anybody on here? Nope. But yeah, and that really, kind of really just does it for... Oh, whoa, I forgot. There we go. But yeah, when it comes to everything, I could easily see, like I said, the 512 gigabyte model of the Steam Machine going for $600. I could see the 256 gigabyte model of the Steam Frame going for $600 as well. And the Steam controller I could see going for $70 to $80. I'd say $80. And I could also see a bundle that includes both the Steam Machine as well as the Steam controller, both going for like $650 and $800, so like 50 more than what the Steam Machine is going to be. Which would be pretty cool. Or you could just order them separately. But yeah. And there's a lot of cool capabilities. So the Steam Frame, the Steam Machine and the Steam Frame both have dedicated like receivers for the Steam controller. And each receiver for the Steam controller, that being the one on the Steam Frame, the one on the Steam Machine, and the one on the Steam controller puck, can support up to 4 Steam controllers at once. And they've tested with multiple pucks, and so far they've tested it, but you can get up to 16 Steam controllers on one PC at the same time. That's what they have tested. I'm pretty sure some crazy people can probably get up to 32 of the darn things working, but at that point, why would you need that many controllers? But I could see 16 players. Um, but it is really cool that you can get multiple controllers on one puck, on one connection. Okay. And then last thing but not least, the Steam Frame also has a 6 gigahertz dongle to plug into a PC. So yeah. Alright, I am being abducted by my family to go eat food, so I will see you guys next time.